Alright, we're having issues today with the error code 74. It's saying my the SM switch is expected but not found. We're going to take a look at what it is. I'm going to show you one thing, what's happening down here as a cause of it. The sweep itself, the table didn't go all the way up, so the sweep, when it cranked back, it's hitting right there at the edge of the table in the center of your picture, center of the image. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna back the sweep out from under here, and we also a part showed up on the lane. This tooth gear just popped out on the lane, and we found it. So that's leading me in a big direction of where to go. Alright, so I've got the sweep motor in the center of your screen. I got to go ahead and I need to get the sweep back to its home position to get it out of the way. So I'm going to pull against the sweep motor, take the belt off the big pulley wheel. Pull the sweep back to where the arms are parallel. I'm going to put the V-belt back in the big pulley black wheel. Alright, so that's got the sweep back at the front out of my way for me. Next thing we got to do is has something to do with the table not bringing the height all the way up, and the only place I can locate one of these gears that looks similar is under this panel here. Yeah, and that's where it came from. Wow. For anybody that doesn't know, that bearing is supposed to have a geared wheel across it. Looks like when it popped off, it tore up some stuff. Hopefully I can lower this table to a safe position to get the tension off of that. We'll see what we can do here. I'm going to try and manually lower this down using the table motor on the far side of your image. You'll see my hand on the pulley wheel lowering it manually. Alright, I lowered it onto the stroke limiter, but I'm going to keep manually bringing it around until I get slack in this upper area off of that crank arm. Alright, I should have enough play in it. I'm going to go look in my spare parts, see if I've got that part real quick. Cross my fingers. Alright, so I did find the spare part. It's a chain gear, is actually what it was. And the bearing's pulled out of the center. This is the old one. It's just got a little lip that's just worn out, and I guess that's where it came off. So I can't actually use it again. I wouldn't try repairing it to use it again. Let's see if I can get you a little... Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and I want to get this chain out of my way. maybe without unhooking a bunch of stuff, I can just run it off the side. Let it free hang there. I'm going to get some gloves. Alright, I'm going to need a set of split ring pliers to remove it. Get in my kit here. You set them up to spread, clip apart. You want to spread it apart just enough to get it off. Don't stretch your ring out. If I can do this so you can see what I'm doing. Got you a little bit more light. Be sure not to let your clip fly off out in the middle of nowhere. Alright, looks like this bearing is going to be a little stubborn. I'm going to get my small bearing puller. Alright, so I got a small size bearing puller here that I'm going to use. I'm going to hook it around the backs of the bearing, put the pin in the center, and crank it down until the bearing comes off or slides off. And so you can see what I'm doing exactly. See how I got it clamped right behind the bearing here on top and bottom, and try and center the pin up as best I can, and then I'm going to crank it out slowly. It was being stubborn, so I was taking my time just to look at it before I started cranking down on it. Show you again how far it's come off. So now I got a lot more gap back here, and it's just slowly, as it's threading in, the bearing is coming off. Doesn't look like it's a bad bearing, it just came out of the housing it was in. Yeah, it's spinning freely as well, so it didn't jam up or bind up. Try and get the new part set up to go on. See, it may just slide on. If it doesn't, I'm going to have to persuade it. I like installing my parts with the part numbers spacing out. Sometimes it makes it a lot easier if I got to repair something that I know that part and I can find the part number easier instead of looking to the inside. Alright, it doesn't look like it's going to slide on as easily as I'd hoped, so I'm going to get a dead blow hammer and a socket to persuade it. Alright, so I got a 17mm socket. It's the best one I could find that would fit appropriately. I got it to where it would just cover the entire surface of this inner steel ring, or this hardened carbide steel ring, whatever they make it out of in these actual bearings. And I'm going to put it right in the dead center. Probably can't see all the image, but I'm going to put it in the center so that I don't mess up any of the bearings around the edge when I'm driving it in. I'm going to take my time tapping it in and be observative as to whether it's going in at an angle. I know if it went in like this, I need to tap more at this upper part to get it back square again. I also made sure that the opening on the other side is big enough that the shaft will go through it and not bind up. And I'm going to take my time in case if it does start to snag, I'll just back it out and I'll go get just maybe an 18mm socket to use. I'm just going to tap lightly around until I start getting this bearing properly seated. Alright, looks like it's lining up, so it's about to take off and go in all the way. Now I just got to tap it enough to where I get where I can connect my split ring onto this wheel, onto that axle to hold the actual gear wheel in position. Hopefully you can see that, maybe you can't. But I got just enough gap there, just past that notch, to where it's going to be able to hold onto that split ring. I'm going to get it started. I'm just going to put the bottom of the belly of the split ring on. So you do know there are two sides to a split ring. You'll notice if you rub it with your hand, sometimes it'll have a rounded edge, and one will have more of a sharp steel cut edge. In this instance, you'd want to put your sharp cut edge flat to the work and let the rounded edge be what is tucking itself behind the actual axle. Alright, so I just had to look at it visually, but I found out which side's the cut edge and which side is rounded. So my cut edge is flat to this side. My rounded edge is out the back. I'm barely spreading it and I'm pushing in with my thumbnail. Now I'm going to readjust my split ring pliers to barely get the edge of it. And I'm going to spin it a little just to make sure that it's seated in the notch properly. Looks good. Now I'm going to reroute the chain around it. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the chain now from down below from the crank. Alright, that should be it. We're going to run it. We're going to see what happens. Hopefully it'll lift the table properly. I'm going to run it in motor and just raise the table itself. Everything appears to be back to normal. Now I'm just going to run it in diagnostic one time, see that it works properly. Alright, that looks like that was all the issue. Just the broken chain gear wheel and the bearing that came out of it. I'm not sure if this bearing works in other sections. If it does, I'm still going to keep it, but I don't think I'll be able to reuse it in this instance, or to even try pressing it back in here. I just don't want to risk more damage. So that should handle that error code on the SM switch.